Also, did y'all know it's ladies' night, you girls? Yeah? Okay. That means after the service, we do have all kinds of different chocolates and sweets for the girls, as well as a rose for all of you. Sorry, guys, it's not for you. You don't get any. But next week is guys' night. There will be a pull-up contest. I'm kind of curious to know who's going to take that home. But then there's also going to be some like wings and other good. We get meat, okay, because we're guys. One time I did beef jerky, but the smell was so bad in the room, like I couldn't take it. So we don't do that anymore. But we do some wings. All right, so they're going to be good. So we're talking about dating, and it started in kindergarten. Her name was Kelly Randall. Yeah, I was in Miss Tuttle's Mound Elementary. Any Mound people? Okay. Mound Elementary kindergarten class, and in comes Kelly. Kelly had fair skin and this long, wavy, dirty blonde hair, and I was in love the moment I saw her, kindergarten. And what this meant was when we went out on the playground, she ran and I chased. And it was always her running and me trying to catch. And that was the relationship. But the thing was, in kindergarten, it wasn't just Kelly. See, I had 2 crushes. The other one was at church, okay? So, by the way, if you're going to have 2 girlfriends, make sure they don't ever know. That's bad advice. Just kidding. Don't have 2. No, but I had another crush, and her name, she was at church, and her name was Alicia Menchaca, okay? Now, she was different. She had darker skin and dark hair, and again, I was like, she is really, really pretty. And a similar thing happened. Here I am in Sunday school, and they'd have free time, and I'm chasing her around the Sunday school class. Until one day, she went underneath. We had tables around in the Sunday school class. She went underneath there, and the rest of the table was blocked by chairs. And so I followed her in, and she was stuck. And so we're stuck under the table. I'm talking, we're laughing or whatever. And she kind of looks away, and in that moment, I take my chance. I lean in, and I kiss her right on the cheek. And she goes, ew, and busted out of the chairs and ran away. So guys, if your first kiss ends with a girl running away screaming, I can relate, okay, just so you know. And dating, it can be confusing, it can be complicated, it can be messy. Even if you're not in a relationship with somebody, just getting along with people of the opposite sex can be complicated. Guys, you know this, girls are complicated and confusing. They have 3 times as many emotions as we do. And I don't know if you know that. I made that up. But it seems to be true. They cry when they're sad and when they're happy. Right after I got married, okay, this was like in the first week or something. I come into the house and my wife is crying, and I'm like, I gotta fix this, okay? I'm the husband now. And I go and say, what's wrong? Are you okay? She goes, yeah, I'm just so happy. I'm like, I'm gonna need a book or something. I don't know if I can do this. But girls, you can have the opposite problem with guys. They will not let you know what's going on in their head or their emotions. They could be playing with a pocket knife, cut off one of their fingers, and be like, no, it's okay. I'll just hold it here. It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. Fine. Okay? You know what I mean? I'm fine. Do you get tired of that, girls? Like, I know you're not fine. Okay. So I know it's complicated on both ends. It's confusing and all of that. So we're spending a few weeks talking about dating, and none of these single things we're going to be able to talk about everything. That's why we do it for a number of weeks. So we're going to start tonight talking about specifically the dating part, okay? And what that means. In fact, I thought maybe we should at least start, if we're going to talk about dating, that's the end. Great. Okay. I don't want y'all to know all my slides before we get there, okay? All right. If we're going to talk about dating, that's never happened before. Okay. If we're going to talk about dating, we need to have a good definition. So let's. This is not going to be in the dictionary, okay? This is my definition, but I think it's a good definition, and you will hopefully, if you're taking notes, write this one down. If you're not taking notes, write this one down. Okay. Dating is the process of evaluating whether or not we are meant to marry a particular person. Dating is the process of evaluating whether or not we are meant to marry a particular person. So when you start dating somebody, what you are doing is evaluating whether this is going to be the person I marry or not. That is the ultimate purpose in dating. Is this going to be someone I stay with, or nope? and I move on from. And so, and this is really important because, especially this word marry, that's kind of like a big commitment. That's a long time. It's supposed to be forever, right? Till death do us part. And so it's an important thing. You don't want to marry a jerk, right? You don't want to marry someone that's going to be a cheater. Okay, you don't want to accidentally marry a Satan worshiper. Oh, they're really great, I think he has an idol to Satan, and at Halloween might sacrifice trick-or-treaters. I'm not really sure. Okay, obviously I'm being stupid. Okay, that's an extreme, and so you don't want to marry someone that cheats, that does really crazy things, okay? But there is a lot of other stuff between someone that's marryable, okay, and killing children, okay? There's a lot between that we need to evaluate, okay? So it is about evaluating. And so we want to kind of learn how to do that and what that might look like, because if you get it right, it's good. It can be good. If you get it wrong, it can be really, really bad. And it can be very, very painful. So this is one of those areas that we need to figure out. So I kind of want to help us understand this because, here's the thing. People think, okay, the Bible doesn't talk about dating, right? Have you ever thought about that? In fact, it never says date in the Bible. They never say boyfriend or girlfriend. Adam and Eve did not become boyfriend and girlfriend first, okay? I mean, it would have been really funny if Adam asked her to go out and she was like, no. He was like, I'm the only man. I was like, I'd try the monkeys. You're ugly. Okay, I don't know. But that didn't happen so dating is not in the Bible. But this is in the Bible. Evaluating is all through the Bible. In fact, I wanted to give you an example, and that's what that next verse is. Look, here's an example of evaluating. And this is Solomon. He says, better to live on the corner of a roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife. Now, do you think that was written for married guys? You picture this is a married guy's hanging onto the side of the roof, right? I gotta get away from her. Okay, I'm not gonna go and sleep in that room. I'm gonna just stay. So he's out here and someone's like, what's going on up there? I was like, I had to get away. She's so quarrelsome, which is, I don't know, we don't use that word, but and so he's hanging on. And it's like, you should read this. And better to, wish they would have told me before I got married. Okay, so this is written so that you can evaluate before, right? So you can go, hey guys, if you're dating her and she's moody and mean and quarrelsome, it goes the other way, girls. Don't get all mad on me, okay? Maybe it's someone you need to move on because it better to be, I don't even know what that really means to live on the corner of a roof, but it sounds not good. Okay, here's another example. This one's not even just relationships. Do not make friends with a hot-tempered man. Do not associate with one easily angered. Now, is this written to a married lady? Hey, if your husband is hot-tempered, don't be his friend. Okay, that doesn't even make sense, right? No, this is saying, hey, if you're getting into a friendship with somebody and you realize they blow up on people all the time, probably need to back away from that. So this is all through the Bible. There's all these examples of the fact that we need to learn to evaluate. We need to evaluate somebody, especially when it comes to dating. So what we're going to talk about next week is how to date. Next week, yeah. We're going to talk about how the actual process and the practical sides, we're going to do all kinds of stuff, all kinds of little things next week. This week we're going to talk about who to date. Who to date. And I want to point out something. It's not just who to date. Ultimately, I'm talking about who to marry. Because, I don't know if you know this, when you date someone, you will either break up or get married. That's the way it always ends. You either break up you could date perpetually, but that's not really the point, okay? Then you're basically being married, you're just not married, okay? We talk about that maybe another time. But so we're talking about who to be in a relationship with. And again, and this is really important for us because dating is a process of evaluating whether or not we are meant to marry a particular person. And so we want to get this right. We want to figure out what this person should look like. Because if you want to have a great relationship, there's two of you. And you hopefully, like we talked about last week, have done the work on yourself to be ready. And so then you got to meet the right person that you're going to run alongside with and do that relationship with. So, and then evaluating that. And then we'll talk about next week what to do when you discover it's not the right person or it is the right person. We'll get there. But we're going to talk about who it is. Okay, I'm going to give you two characteristics, two qualities, two big things that you're going to kind of think about. And that is character and chemistry. Character and chemistry. And you're like, yes, we have such chemistry. Oh, butterflies. And okay, that's not really what I'm talking about. Let me get a little more detail. Solid, godly character and fun, easy chemistry. This is what we're looking for. And I'm going to explain these further, but solid, godly character and fun, easy chemistry. So let me give you kind of maybe a way to think about relationships and really friendships as well, but we're talking specifically about friendships. If any of you are runners, you'll appreciate this. If you're like me and hate running, then you'll just have to follow along. Okay, if you can imagine that your life is like a race, okay, in fact, Paul compares our Christian walk to a race, and you are running hard, okay, and you're doing really well. You're running your race, you're doing your thing. And if you're a believer, you are pursuing Christ, right? You're pursuing God and trying to live for him and learn his ways, and you're going strong after him. And not just to know him, but to do his purposes and to live his purposes. And this is your goal, and you're going strong, and you're finding ways to serve him and finding ways to go after him. So if you're running this race, right, you're also going to see people around you running. And there's some of them are going to be going in different directions. Some of them are going to be going in the opposite direction. Now, most people don't have a problem knowing, okay, I probably shouldn't date the person going to the opposite direction, okay? Girls, you're not taking a guy home, be like, hi, Mom. Hi, Dad, this is my new boyfriend, Spike. Spike. Yeah, that's his dog collar. It's okay. And look, he smells like pot, but he doesn't smoke it. He just sells it, Mom. It's okay, all right? Like, that's not really a problem. I hope it's a splash zone. I hope it's not a problem, okay? Like even if, yeah, whatever. So the hard thing is sometimes we're running along in a race, and then there's people that they're not going the opposite. They're just going in a different direction, right? And if you're a believer and you're pursuing Jesus, that direction, I mean, it's not like this is a bad person doing like bad things. They're just pursuing something different than you are. They're going in a different direction. It could be money, it could be success, it could be a career, it could be other things. And sure, you're pursuing some of those things as well, but they are not pursuing the ultimate thing that you are. And so there's a difference there. And even when we start talking about chemistry things and things that you like to do and who you like to spend time with, when they're different, this is what ends up happening. If you join up with someone that's running a different path, that's running a different pace, what ends up happening is they're going one way and you're wanting to go another way, and there's this tension. And instead of you running the race that God has for you, you start going off on some different paths than what he had for you. And you're unhappy because this is what I was hoping for. And guess what? They're unhappy too because you're trying to drag them over to your thing, and it doesn't work. So we need to discover what these things look like and how that we can evaluate whether or not somebody is the person that we could fit with. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about godly character, because I think that this is, if you're a believer, this is the primary thing. There is nothing more important than what someone believes about who Jesus is in their life, because it is the thing that will change every single other thing in your life. Everything I do, every goal I have is different because of this. I treat people a certain way because of what Jesus has told me to do. I approach relationships and I approach my marriage differently because of this. I approach my goals and my future and the way I raise my kids and how I spend my money and on and on and on and on and on I could go because of my relationship with Jesus. And so as a believer, if you're a believer, this is a critical thing for you. You will find that you will not stay and be compatible with somebody that doesn't have that in relation with you. Now, if some of you have been around and you know when we talk about this, there's a verse that we always talk about, and you're going, he's going to use that verse, and he's going to use that verse, okay? And you're like, here comes that verse, okay? And here's the thing. I keep using this verse because some of you just keep not listening, okay? Like every year I talk about this, and 2 weeks later, you don't listen, and I watch you go through the heartbreak and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to keep doing it until you stop acting dumb. I shouldn't say dumb. Until you stop acting stupid. No, okay, anyways, but you know what I'm trying to say. Until you listen, until you get it, okay? I know you're not being stupid. It's hard sometimes. So here's the verse. This is the common one that we talk about. Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. This is Paul writing to Christians. He says, don't be yoked. And you're like, I don't even like eggs, okay? Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. What does that mean? So a yoke was this big piece of wood or metal or whatever they made it out of at the time, that they would take maybe 2 oxen, okay? Oxen, I think I said it right, oxen, and they would connect them together, and then they could pull. And the point was, hey, you don't want to take like an oxen and like a miniature donkey, okay, and like try to yoke those together. They just wouldn't work. They'd be going in circles, and it just wouldn't work right. So you don't yoke 2 things together that are not the same. And so now he's not saying, hey, Christian, you can't be friends with people that aren't unbelievers. Because we're certainly supposed to love people and be friends with people that aren't believing like us. But what he's saying is you don't get into a relationship, a friendship, or a relationship where they are influencing the direction of your life, where you're connected with them in such a way that they're going to determine and pull you away from the plan that God has for you. So let's have a little fun. I need a couple, and there's a couple right here. So I'm just going to pick y'all. Yeah, right here. Nobody else got to volunteer. Come on up. Now, this is fun. Y'all just stand right here. Just stand right here. Now, I just want to say, is y'all's relationship going okay? Yeah. Okay. Because I've been doing this for 12 years, okay? Every couple I've ever done with broke up this with. So last year they broke up that night. So I'm sorry, okay? But I'm using a different visual this time, so maybe it won't happen to you. Okay, so we're going to talk about being yoked together, right? So we're connected in a way. And that's what yoke means. It means connected. Okay, there we go. Okay, now here is kind of the point of what we're talking about, okay? When you are yoked, when you're connected with a person, you cannot go in opposite directions, okay? So if she is a believer who loves Jesus with all of her heart, and he is not, okay? And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm saying this is just not his purpose. This is not what he dreams about, okay? He doesn't dream about following Jesus. He dreams about other things, okay? And so, and this is one of those things where people get kind of confused. They think I'm saying you've got your Christian and then you've got your person who's selling drugs, okay? That's not what I mean by that. He's a perfectly nice, good, fun guy. He is just not pursuing Jesus. So when she decides, hey, I want to do this thing because of God, and she goes that way. Oh, sorry, I poked you in the eye. And she goes that way, and he wants to go that way. Does it work? Let's see. Can y'all practice going opposite directions? So let's see. Okay. Sorry, does that kind of hurt? Okay. Now, what will ultimately happen is, a few things can happen. One, the stronger personality is going to drag the other one. Now, I mean, physically, this one's going to be obvious, but sometimes it's the girl has a stronger personality, and she'll drag him. In fact, I'm going to drag you to church. That's what I'm going to, you're going to come. Now, girls, I mean, let's think about this. If you have to drag him to church now, can you imagine doing that for the rest of your life? Guys, if she just thinks your church thing is this cute thing that you do, how is you ever going to get to serve and do things for God with your life if she doesn't really even like what you're doing and she's just kind of going along with it because it's your church thing, it's cute, okay? That's not what we're meant to be. So that happens. The other option is, they just kind of drag each other back and forth a little bit and they're both miserable. By the way, if you're in this position, you're going to be miserable, because you're going to be having this Christian dragging you around all the time. And if you're on this side, you're going to be miserable because there's things that you want to do. And you're like, well, maybe it's not going to be that bad. And you just don't really understand all the things that start to come up. What happens if God tells you to tithe and wants you to start giving to the church? And then you're just like, I want to start giving. And your spouse is like, what are you talking about? You're going to give our money to that place? I mean, you can go, but you're not giving them our money, okay? Or you want to bring your kids, and they're like, hey, that's our family time. You can have them every other week, and the rest of the time, they're going to be with me. And on and on and on and on it goes, because you're not compatible. So the other option is you become unyoked. And you either are just miserable, or you become unyoked. And so this is why Paul says, don't be yoked together, because it is not how you're meant to live. And even in a dating relationship, so I was just talking about marriage. When you're dating, it is still rough. In fact, this should be, listen, you realize you're in a relationship and they are not following Jesus like you want to follow Jesus. It's time to unyoke and move on to somebody that is and trust God that he has that. I didn't bring the key, so y'all can just go sit down. Anyways, it's somewhere in the back. We'll find it later. They're like safety ones. There's a latch on there somewhere. They'll figure it out. Okay, now here's the thing. So here's the next thing he says about this. Don't be yoked together. Because he says, what does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? And which you go, we have so much in common. We both like Stranger Things, and we both like the same, food, okay? And we like stuff, and we get along, and it's so good. But here's the thing. The core thing in your life, if you're a believer, is Jesus. And you don't have that in common. And you go, oh, but I'm so lonely. I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to be single. Let me tell you what a deeper level of loneliness is than that. It is laying in a king-size bed next to a person that you cannot share your hopes and dreams with. that you don't share your faith with. That is an entire another level of loneliness that I do not want you to have to experience. So you have to evaluate. You have to look at these things and make those evaluations now so you don't get in those situations. And trust God that he has something else for you. So we evaluate. This is a huge area of our life. Am I with somebody that believes in God? Listen, I want one more thing on this. I'm not just talking about someone that goes to church. You know, you can go to church and not be serving Jesus. Okay? I once heard this cowboy guy say, you can put a bow tie on a turd, but it's still a turd. Okay. I'm not calling you a turd, okay? I'm just making, the point he was making is, okay, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that in church, you can dress something up as one thing, but it's still what it is underneath, okay? And I have seen this. I've seen guys do it, and I've seen girls do it. They like somebody who, the faith is a big part of their life, and they just pretend. And some of them pretend really good. And so listen, it can be difficult, but you need to look at the fruit of their life. Great, they came with you to church. What are they doing for the kingdom? Are they making a difference in anybody else's life? Do they want to be in a small group, not just so they can grow, but so that they can minister to other people? Are they trying to make a difference in other people's lives? I mean, some of you are going, I think I'm the one with the bow tie on. No, I'm not calling you a turd, okay? It's just, I need a new illustration. But I'm saying is, some of us maybe look at ourselves and go, man, maybe I need to grow. And that's what we talked about last week. But so you need to evaluate that thing in your life. So we talked about the first one, character. Let's talk about chemistry. And I'm going to do four things chemistry really, really fast, okay? And the first one, you're going to be like, that's the same thing as the last one. Okay, it's slightly different, so I'm going to use it, okay? And here it is, theologically compatible. You're like, theologically? What does that even mean? Okay, and let me just give you a real practical way of this, okay? If you want to go to a church that has lights and guitars, and they want to go to a church that has organs and robes, it might not work out very good, okay? And then there's nothing wrong with organs and robes, but if that's not what sometimes that's not compatible. And I'm not saying you have to be the same denomination. Okay, I've known many, many couples who were different things, and they were able to find a way that worked, and they were to find a place that worked. But it is something that you would want to consider because your faith is a huge part of your life. And two people can love Jesus, but have a different way of expressing that. But it's important that you at some point discover whether or not that is something that you can do, and not just think it'll work out because you put a ring on it, okay? So that's an important one. Let's move on because it's something you'll care more about. All right, socially compatible. So let me just give you the question here. Do you like talking to them? And you go, well, that's dumb. Of course you like talking to them. But you know what? I have met so many couples that don't. and here's what I mean. They're like, well, I mean, we really like holding hands and kissing and stuff. Okay, I got some news for you. Most of being married is not making out. That's part of being married and then some, okay? But come back in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about then some a lot. Okay. I'm not going to come. That's awkward. Okay. But most of being married is riding in a car talking and sitting at dinner and talking and cleaning together and doing all kinds of other things. That's most of being married. And if you do not just enjoy the person's company, then that's not a good relationship for you. And I have seen it, I've heard people say it, and I have experienced it. I remember myself, and I was so ignorant to it because you get blinded by the other stuff. There was a girl I was dating in high school, and she was really pretty, and all my friends were like, how did you get that girl? And all this kind of stuff, so it made me feel good. And I had all these feelings, but I remember talking on the phone going, how can I get off the phone? I'm so bored. And that's not good. If you are bored in conversation with the person, you might need to realize, hey, they're a great person, they're sweet, I like them, but they may not be someone I'm compatible with. And it's okay to not be compatible with somebody. You see, when you're running that race we were talking about earlier, sometime you're going to eventually see somebody else that's running after God. Then you start to explore these other areas. You're like, hey, and she's like, hey, and you're telling your friends, so I said hey, and I did the head thing, and then she was like, hey, and I think that was I don't know if that was a good one, or you're trying to figure out if they like you and all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing, when dating is evaluating, you start to explore these things, and sometimes you discover hey, we're not as compatible as I hoped. Yeah, she loves Jesus. Yeah, he loves Jesus. Yeah, they're cute and all this, but I don't know. There's something missing, and it's okay to discover that and move on. And we'll talk a little bit more how to move on next week. Vocationally compatible. Now, this is something most of you probably never thought about. But like, okay, if she wants to move to LA and be an actress, and you want to live in Texas and raise cattle, it ain't gonna work, you know. But and that's maybe an extreme. But like, if she wants to stay here and be near family, and he wants to move to Chicago or to Silicon Valley or one of these kind, that may not work. And in fact, and just even thinking about college. You know, he wants to go to this coast and she wants to go to that coast or this other place, and they're going to be miles and hours apart. It might work, but it probably won't work. And it's stuff you have to consider. And you're like, well, I mean, I don't even know what I want to do. How am I going to discover like with them? Well, maybe you're not in a place to date yet. Just thinking out loud. I don't know. But here we go. Physically compatible. Oh, finally. And I know I'm not talking about like y'all are good at kissing each other, okay? That's not at all what I'm talking about. But I do mean this. You should be attracted to the person, okay? I mean, you don't want to get married and like here you are at the altar and he's like, you may kiss the bride, and you're like, can we leave the veil on? Like, is that an option? Like, yeah, okay, that's obviously not what you want. You want to be physically attracted to the person. And again, you go, well, everyone would do that. But I have actually known people that got pushed into a relationship because everybody thought they should be together and they didn't want to disappoint anybody, and they just weren't even physically attracted to them, and they just stayed in this relationship, and that's not healthy, okay? And so you got to find out, you know, chemistry and all that if it all works. So I wanted to read. I was reading this book, this little quick story, one for the guys, one for the girls, and so men, you want a woman like Brenda Roever. I don't know how to say her last name. Not long after she married her husband, Dave, he went to serve in the U.S. military. There he suffered horrible burns to his body and face from a phosphorus grenade. As he lay in the ICU, he watched as a woman visited her husband, also a burn victim, in the neighboring bed. She laid her wedding ring on the bed and said, "I can't be seen with you. You're an embarrassment." And she left him to die in the hospital bed. Dave was terrified that his wife would react similarly when she saw his mangled face. However, when Brenda arrived, she walked straight to her husband at the lowest moment in his life, kissed his face, and said, "Welcome home." That is what you want. A woman whose faithfulness to you is not anchored to shifting sands of circumstances or looks, but to you and to God. Ladies, if you can forgive the crude example, I want to paint for you a plausible scenario. If and when you decide to have a baby, you will go, this is going to be a little awkward, but I'm going to do it anyways. You will go through a period of several weeks or months after birth when sex is not an option. You want a man who has control of his sexuality now, so that when sex is off the table for a few months, you don't have to worry about whether or not he is taking his desires to the internet, a coworker, or elsewhere. You want a man who is making war on his lust now for no other reason than his allegiance to Christ. If you marry a guy like that, when he goes on a work trip, you won't suffer through sleepless nights wondering what he's up to in his hotel room. You will be able to rest in the security that comes from having a man with integrity. Now, these are just two small examples of what happens when you do this right. You find somebody who loves Christ and that you have chemistry with, and it is an amazing thing. And here's the last thing I'll tell you. You get in this thing, I gotta find him now. Listen, it's more important sometimes that you just stay single and wait. I didn't find mine until I was 27, and I wasn't very happy about it, okay? But God had a better plan. And so I trusted him, and I just kept running my race. And eventually, there was this beautiful, blonde, amazing girl who was way out of my league, and I don't know, someone hit her on the head, and she couldn't tell I was way under it, okay? and so, if you're new here, that's her. Okay? So I want to pray with you. And so I'm actually going to say a prayer that I would encourage you to pray. And I want to tell you what it is ahead of time, because I don't want you to pray it if it's not something that you want. But if you're a believer, then I would like for you to pray and commit to God that you are going to trust him for who you're meant to be with. That you're going to trust him and do it his way. So that's a commitment that I would love for you to make to him tonight. So I'm going to pray, and as I do, if that's a commitment you want to make, I want to encourage you to just pray it in your heart. You don't have to say anything out loud. Just pray it in your heart with me. Just to yourself, say this. Say, Father, I trust you with my relationships. I want to date and to marry the person that you have for me. I will trust you with this. I'm willing to be single, and I'm willing to wait. And I trust that you have a great plan for me. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, leave a comment down below or hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.